1744, Journal Rond T. Lambert Treatise on Dynamics. In the Annals of Scientific Progress, Jean Le Rond D. Lembert's Treatise on Dynamics, published in 1743, stands as a cornerstone. This work, born from the intellectual ferment of the Enlightenment, presented a novel and significant formulation of the principles governing the motion of bodies. This essay will undertake a critical engagement with D. Lembert's treatise, focusing primarily upon a section-by-section analysis of the core arguments and methodologies presented within its pages. The aim here is not a comprehensive history of the work nor to dwell upon its broad historical impact, although these aspects will inform a process as needed, but rather to critically assess the internal logic, the evidentiary basis, and the enduring relevance of D. Lembert's specific claims regarding the dynamics of matter. The essay will move through the work with an eye towards the specific assertions made, the methods proposed, and the conclusions derived. Section 1, Introduction, and the Principle of Inertia. D. Lambert opens his treatise with an introduction that sets the stage for his novel approach to dynamics. He immediately establishes the fundamental premise that motion is a consequence of forces acting upon bodies. The body, in its natural state, possesses a tendency to remain at rest, or, if already in motion, to continue in a straight line at a constant speed. This concept, clearly presented at the onset, underscores the importance D. Lambert places on the principle of inertia, a concept that had secured ground in scientific thought through the work of Galileo and Newton. He affirms that any alteration in this state of motion requires an external agency, a force to act upon it. This introduction serves as a foundation upon which the subsequent arguments are built. D. Lambert does not elaborate on the nature of these forces, but emphasizes their capacity to alter a body's velocity, laying the groundwork for a mathematical description of motion. Section 2. The Composition of Forces. A core part of D. Lembert's approach lies in how he treats the combination of forces. He adopts the parallelogram law, allowing the resolution of forces into components and the determination of the resultant force. He explains that two forces acting on a body, acting at a single point, produce a single resultant force. The effect of this resultant force is equivalent to the combined effect of the original two forces. The strength of each force, as well as their directions relative to one another, is key in this formulation. D. Lambert provides geometrical demonstrations of this law, illustrating how the velocity of a body is changed given specific conditions. He emphasizes that these principles are the key to understanding compounded motion, meaning motions affected by multiple influences simultaneously occurring. D. Lambert underscores the importance of this principle in addressing complexities present in mechanical systems. One can argue that this focus on the composition of forces allows for the simplification of complex systems. By allowing for the analysis of individual components and their combined effect, its strength lies in providing a means to calculate motion arising from a blend of forces. Section 3. D. Lembert's Principle, the Foundation. The heart of D. Lembert's methodology is encapsulated within his principle, which he details in the third section. This principle provides a powerful method for analyzing the motion of systems of interconnected bodies. D. Lambert posits that for a system of bodies to be in equilibrium, the forces acting on each body, plus the resistance to acceleration or inertia, must sum to zero. This means the forces are balanced. He casts the problem of dynamics into a set of equilibrium problems, which is central to his formulation. He suggests that, by treating inertia as a force, one can apply the well-established principles of statics, the study of objects at rest or in a state of constant velocity, to problems of motion. This is an important shift, transforming dynamics into an area where familiar tools can be directly deployed. This allows for a systematic analysis of forces without requiring the direct calculation of accelerations, a crucial innovation that provided a simpler method of solving complex problems. D'Alembert stresses this principle offers a method for determining both the directions and magnitudes of the forces involved. This novel perspective simplified problem-solving and offered a new perspective on the relationships in physical systems. Section 4 Application to a single body free motion to demonstrate the utility and validity of the principle outlined. D'Alembert considers the simplest case the motion of a single body subject to an external force. He shows how his principle, when applied, produces results consistent with Newton's laws of motion. The force acting on the body, combined with the inertial resistance, brings the body under equilibrium. He demonstrates mathematically how, in such a case, the acceleration of the body is directly proportional to the force acting on it, in accordance with Newton's second law. The method here is simple and straightforward, establishing the foundation for how the principle applies in more complicated situations. This section establishes the principle's compatibility with derivation from established. Section 5 Application to systems of bodies, constraints and interactions. D'Alembert then expands his analysis to address the dynamics of systems comprising multiple interacting bodies. He introduces the considerations when bodies are subject to constraints, these constrictions shaping how the bodies can move. Examples are systems involving rigid connections, such as a pendulum constrained by a string, or surfaces in contact with each other, restricting some motion. He provides methods for determining the forces of constraint, the forces that are required to enforce these restrictions on motion. D'Alembert explains that the mutual actions, reactions between interacting bodies are of the type where an action is always met by an equal and opposite reaction. He meticulously analyzes the impact of these constraints on the forces involved, with calculations and illustrations to accompany each statement. D'Alembert's focus here is not just on describing the motion of constrained systems, but also on providing a general method for calculating the forces. This method of analysis is a step that allows for a more comprehensive understanding of complex, mechanical systems. Section 6 The Principle of Virtual Work. In this pivotal section, D'Alembert introduces the principle of virtual work, a concept that significantly advances the efficiency of mechanical analysis. D'Alembert explains that the forces acting on a system, when multiplied by the small, hypothetical displacements the system could undergo given its constraints, must sum to zero to make the system in equilibrium. The small, hypothetical displacements given the context of these analyses are termed virtual displacements. This concept provides a method for determining the equilibrium position of a system of bodies, without explicitly calculating all the forces involved. D'Alembert details how it allows for the simplification of complex problems, removing the need to directly calculate the reactions between the bodies involved in the system. He illustrates how this can vastly simplify the analysis of systems with many interconnected bodies. This principle allows for the derivation of mathematical equations describing motion with minimal work. The principle of virtual work, therefore, serves as a powerful tool for tackling the difficulties that arise in complicated mechanical systems. Section 7 The Case of Impulsive Forces. D'Alembert dedicates a section to the effect of impulsive forces, that is, large forces that act over very short periods of time. Like impacts, he approaches this issue by considering the changes in momentum immediately before and after the impact. When these forces act, the momentum of the bodies involved changes suddenly. He provides a method for calculating these instantaneous changes in momentum. He uses his principle to analyze how the impulse is transmitted through a system of connected bodies, taking constraints into account. D'Alembert demonstrates how to calculate the velocity of the bodies immediately following an impact, and also how the forces of constraint come into play. His analysis is crucial for understanding the mechanics of collisions and the behavior of bodies during sudden physical interactions. Section 8 Problems of Motion and Applications. D'Alembert dedicates several sections of his treatise to the application of these principles to concrete problems of motion, thus showcasing their utility. He dives into a variety of examples, from the motion of pendulums to the dynamics of pulleys, to the motion of rigid bodies. He provides a systematic approach to solving these problems, using his principle, walking through the steps involved in forming equations and calculating unknown quantities. He demonstrates the usefulness of his principle in analysis of levers, inclined planes, and other simple machines. He illustrates the capacity for solving problems that are far more complex in the context of the time. The effectiveness of his principle is on display through the thoroughness and clarity of these analyses. The many examples given illustrate the power of the method and its applicability to real-world scenarios. Section 9. Objections and responses. This section is where D'Alembert addresses criticisms that had already begun to surface. Specifically in the context of his work, he delves into the difficulties associated with the concept of forces and how he overcomes them. He responds to critiques of his methodology. He contends that although the nature of forces may be impossible to fully know, his principle allows for accurately predicting how bodies will behave, meaning that one does not require a thorough understanding of the cause to understand the effect. D'Alembert offers an answer to potential inconsistencies and paradoxes, thereby solidifying the intellectual foundation of his approach. Section 10. Fluency and the methodological shift. D'Alembert's treatise represents a significant methodological shift in how the study of dynamics was approached. His work promoted a move away from a more descriptive approach towards a more analytical and formal mathematical framework. The strength of this approach lies in its systematic nature. D'Alembert's emphasis on his principle offers a systematic method for solving problems. This contrasts with previously used methods which often relied on more specialized and ad hoc techniques. His approach provides a systematic method, leading to a more unified and consistent understanding of dynamics. This shift promoted a more rigorous, mathematical examination of mechanics. Section 11. Legacy and influence. The impact of D'Alembert's treatise extends well beyond the confines of the scientific community and into other areas. It served as a foundation for the work of other luminaries. His work contributed to later developments in mechanics, including variational principles and Lagrangian mechanics. D'Alembert's principle and the methods he developed changed the direction of mechanics, ushering in an era of more systematic and mathematically sophisticated analysis. The lasting impact is the framework it provides for addressing challenges in the field. Section 12. Critical assessment and evaluation. To assess the internal coherence of D'Alembert's claims, we must consider those claims in relation to their contemporary context. The work's strength is in its systematicity. His method, in its own right, provides a powerful tool for solving the problems. The principle, while somewhat abstract, leads to consistent results. The method's capability to solve complex problems with elegance and a more systematic rigor is notable. The principle of virtual work, as described in this method, is especially useful. The primary limitation arises from the method's inherent conceptual complexity. D'Alembert's method relies on a certain level of abstraction and mathematical knowledge that many practitioners of the time may have lacked. This limitation, however, does not diminish the intrinsic value, but does acknowledge the necessity for mathematical sophistication. The value of the work should not be solely determined through the challenges or limitations, but also by its remarkable usefulness in analyzing mechanical systems. Conclusion. D'Alembert's treatise on dynamics is a profound achievement. The core of his argument, the principle that bears his name, offered a significant advance in the understanding of motion. The method provided an approach that integrated the study of dynamics with the well-established principles of statics, the capacity for solving complex mechanical problems, the application of the principle of virtual work and the systematic mathematical framework altogether solidifies the work's power. D'Alembert's work represents a shift towards rigor in approaching dynamic problems. The work's influence can be seen in successive developments in mechanics for centuries. D'Alembert's contribution is not just a set of equations, it is a shift in methods,